In South Florida, Twist Gaming, featuring lead broadcaster Matt Koza, co-host and creative genius Josh Perry, co-host and interviewer extraordinaire Ann Lazito, co-host and marketing mogul Aaron Murphy, with appearances from special guest Lucy. Welcome to Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. We're coming to you live here from our studio in South Florida, bringing you our first impression session of our spotlight of Plankton Rising by the Op. But before we go any further, who are we? I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
And this is Twist Gaming.
Twist Gaming, where friendship is
where
magic.
you can use your imagination and the power of the internet to play board games with us. So if you haven't checked it out, go and check out our spotlight of Plankton Rising. It is a new game coming out later this month. We are in the month of October right now, I think, right? Yeah. And it uses the Rising mechanics slightly different than all of the other Rising games that you have out, if you're not familiar with them. Josh will go over what that is in just a moment. But otherwise, anything else before we just jump into our first impression?
I don't think so.
Oh, I won.
No.
It's a co-op game.
Yeah.
We all won.
Yeah. So, Josh, brief recap of what kind of game Plankton Rising is.
So it follows the regular Rising game. So it's a co-op game. So we all have different teams that we're working on. In Plankton Rising, we are trying to serve customers their meal, their
Krabby Patties.
Krabby Patties.
Yeah.
While Plankton is trying to steal the burger recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could get our friends to help us along the way. And if we take too long, too much time goes up and they leave.
Yeah, the customers go away. And then we lose if 10 customers leave.
Yep.
Because they're upset. And we want to help Mr. Krabs keep his money.
And we don't want Plankton to steal the burger as well.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of conflicting interests.
We do. We do. So first up, we're going to talk about our favorite aspects of the game, so stuff that we enjoyed about Plankton Rising, and we'll go down the line. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the stream or just don't know, we do our yearly Twist Gaming Awards, and 2 years back, Thanos Rising won the Game of the Year for us. We definitely enjoy that. We play that a lot in our downtime as well, so we definitely enjoy the Rising mechanics. So I think a large portion of our positive aspects of the review are going to come from that, just because, I mean, it's something that we definitely like.
And we disappeared.
We disappeared, so Josh is working on that. I promise that we're still here. Nothing shifty is going on behind the scenes.
Did Plankton disconnect the camcorder?
It was Plankton. Definitely Plankton. But we're back now. We foiled his attempt to steal the Krabby Patty. Additionally, I think that they did a really cute job with the theming in fitting it all together. I'm going to switch over to the board cam now. I love the burger components here. And then it didn't happen to us because we're just so darn good. But if you fill up one of these sections with the theft tokens, you flip it over, and it's Plankton digitizing the recipe into his wife. And it powers up the ability. I just think it's super cute that way. Additionally, I mean, this mini is just sweet. Come on, look at how cute it is. It's a chum bucket and Plankton. Yeah, and I mean, if you enjoyed the Rising mechanics, you'll definitely enjoy this.
Yeah.
Anne, how about you?
I definitely thought that this was very cute. It's not very different. I think it still has the same spirit as the other Rising games that we've played, but it's definitely still a twist.
Mm-hmm.
Something that
a twist.
Oh boy. What I like in the Rising games is almost like the deck builder piece of it to find the
engine builder.
To find the abilities that synchronize well together.
Mm-hmm. I feel like in this one they definitely made the abilities more easily synchronizable.
I feel like this game is being marketed to younger players. It is definitely a trimmed down version, I think, of the Rising games. So So I have a comment about that, but I don't know if it's a positive or a negative or maybe just an observation. I feel as if, and it could just be my feelings, that the abilities from the friends were less varied in some of the other Rising games that we got. There was a lot of the same abilities.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't think that it's a positive for me because I kind of like more variety in the abilities. But I think that if this game is being marketed toward younger players, then that's a positive because it really reduces the bar for entry into the game. You don't have to have analysis paralysis to try and figure out how many other kinds of abilities work well together.
Definitely, I agree with that. Something else I do want to make a note of is one of the major departures from the other Rising games is when the BB, e.g., Big Bad Evil Guy, takes their turn, instead of rolling a dice or rolling a die or rolling dice for them, this slightly reduces the randomness of it by introducing a Plankton deck. So basically there is, I don't know what the actual quantities of the cards are, but I would guess that it's a 1/3 chance of him either going to the chum bucket, the dining room, or the kitchen. So if you see a pattern coming up of, hey, like in our first couple rounds, we got a whole mess of kitchen cards back to back. After that, I was like, I think the kitchen's probably a safer place to go now.
The other thing about this is it also varies the ingredients.
Yes.
So you don't have bad luck with rolls where
Yeah.
you just get pounded and something flips early.
Very true.
Which typically is what happens. Like, that's how you lose real quick in a Rising game. This is much more a kid-friendly Rising game.
Yeah.
To play with kids. It's only got 2 locations instead of the 3. The rules are simplified. There's not as many bad guys. It's not really about beating up people and killing people.
It's about serving the customers.
It's about serving customers. They use a really good theme throughout the rulebook to kind of make it kid-friendly.
Yep.
Actually, you have the box over there? What's the age on it? I'm just curious.
8+.
8+, okay. So yeah, it's much more kid-friendly than the other Rising games, especially what we're going to be showing off next week.
Yes, definitely. Pretty much a
Right,
180
that's
from that.
exciting.
Spoiler alert, Anything else that either of you want to point out from favorite aspects? Moving right along then. Going into constructive criticism. This is sections of the game that you would change if you had the ability to. Anything you'd like to tweak to maybe enjoy your experience a little bit more. This is where I'm going to have to steal what Anne said last time and say that I would have liked to have seen more of the varied player powers that we had from other Rising games. I definitely get that there was a simplification of it to make the game more accessible. My personal preference would be to see more powers. Anne, did I steal your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I can expand on that, I think. I feel like some of these powers are more complicated than others. So, for example, Mary Walker and Barnacle Boy, I think are 2 varying levels of complexity when it comes to a power. Mary Walker is go to kitchen, get this color die.
Yeah.
Whereas Barnacle Boy is if you roll a double fun, for each plus order you have completed, you're going to get a spatula. So I think they're on varying ends of the complexity. I feel like there weren't enough, if you go here, get this extra die kind of rolls. I think that if this is going to be pared down, that I would have actually, and maybe it was to appeal to a wider audience, but if this was kid friendly, I don't know, maybe I would have wanted to see more variety in simple abilities.
Fair enough. We did have a question in chat, Anne, of I feel like this question's best suited for you. Do you feel like children under 8 would be able to play this game?
I think that for board games, this is probably not a intro kid game because I think that some of the concepts like engine builders and deck builders and all are can get to be a little complex. But I think if you've got gamer kids, if you're a gamer family, you've played a couple of games under your belt, I definitely think that this is a very accessible game for kids. And I do definitely think that the instructions are pretty straightforward. I think 8 is probably a good age range recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Josh?
My one complaint is I wish the icons were just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Just like
I do have
especially
to
the numbers.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to echo that. The numbers are kind of in a chunky bolded text that doesn't have a lot of definition from further away.
The 2s and 3s are really...
Even the 2s and the 1s, honestly, we are also at a very obtuse angle because we are on a streamer table.
Yeah.
Most people that are playing this are probably facing the game or much closer to it.
That's a 2 and a 3 in a teamwork, and I think it really showcases how close those two chunky numbers.
Yeah.
The roundness of the top of the 2 looks just like the roundness of the 3.
Yeah.
And if it's a little bit like if you put in your team card, they're much more readable on your main card, your player card.
Oh, because of the size difference.
Yeah.
Just because it's just a bit bigger, but
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing.
I would almost like to see pips there instead of numbers or like tallies to define it a little bit better. The other thing that I'll kind of bring up, and this is an issue that we actually brought up with the other Rising games, is it'd be great if these had the symbols for the die that they correlated to on here for colorblind accessibility. Just because, they're just a cube. Anything else?
No, that was my one little minor gripe was I just kind of I couldn't see what anything on the board said.
And if this game is supposed to be geared toward a younger audience, you're gonna want the big
Chunk
numbers.
Yeah.
I like the dice that they're, but I still feel like they're it's the big chunky kinda.
The other thing I noticed was there's less dice in this Rising game.
Yes, there is.
It's not negative. It's just you can't collect as many as you.
Yeah, your starting die pool is also less, so better for little hands.
I didn't find that to be an issue. Oh, that's a good point. Better for little hands. I know, Matt, that in this particular round that you weren't able to grow your dice pool as fast, but it seemed
It was a choice.
It seemed like Josh and I had no problem ending up with massive dice pools. Well, you had 4.
I mean, you took all the ones that synergize, but that's fine. The target values are also less too. Yeah, so it definitely is a scaled down, so there's less complexity. It's easier to deal with the strategy of which dice do I keep, which do I reroll, stuff like that. Moving along into the final portion of this, and that is, would you play this game again? If you have any caveats, let me know. But Josh, you're up first.
This would not be the first Rising game I would pick up unless I was playing with kids.
Yeah.
If I wanted to teach some kids a Rising game or something, I definitely pick this up over one of the other Rising games.
Yeah.
Depending on the age range. Actually, probably most kids under 16, I would probably pick this.
Yeah.
The show because it's easy enough. It's got the IP that
they can relate to a little bit more. Yeah.
And you're incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anne.
I personally am not a SpongeBob fan. In my family, SpongeBob, I did not allow my children to watch SpongeBob. So take what I say from that context.
Is that why you didn't roll that much fun?
And so this would not be the first game that I went to go. I probably wouldn't purchase this game specifically because of the IP. And it's interesting, I think, to me as a parent and raising children when SpongeBob was very popular and knowing how polarizing the IP of SpongeBob was, it'll be interesting for me to see how this does on the market. That being said, the mechanics, the way the game was built, I think was done very appropriately for kids. I just personally am not a fan of the IP. And even having not watched too many of the SpongeBob shows, I didn't need to have had background on the show. I have some, general pop culture background, but I didn't need to be a fan of the show to play it, to appreciate the art or the comics or the jokes or what have you. So, I personally probably wouldn't pick it up because of the IP, but I think that if somebody doesn't have an issue with the IP, then I think this is perfect for what it's targeted to do.
Fair enough. For myself, I think I'd probably pick this up as a pretty decent entry point game to someone that's they want to try out more boardy games than typical. Additionally, yes, this is definitely much lighter than Thanos Rising. Just comparing this to other Rising games, I think I actually enjoy this one more than the Death Eaters Rising. I think the mechanics and mechanisms of this one are more enjoyable to me than that one. I don't know if it's just less fiddly with the other cards that you flip. I just I prefer this one style, even with the added simplicity to it. I like that we were able to scale it and immediately be hey, I want it to be more difficult. And then just like, let's just keep playing until we get to the end. Wish it was harder, but again, this is a kids game, or geared more towards kids, not necessarily
It's a lighter
kids
game,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a lighter game. So I can definitely see that. And I think that, going off of, like Stephanie being my fiance, for anyone that's watching that doesn't know, she is not very saturated in the board game market, so I feel like this is one that she would be more willing to pick up and play based off of how light it was compared to some of the other ones.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think that she would, and she's played heavier games with us, but this is definitely like we're gonna have dinner or whatever and bring board games out. This would definitely, I think, be a choice for a non-board game.
And to provide some context with that, she prefers the Death Eater Rising over the Thanos Rising. So I'm curious.
She's also a big Harry Potter fan.
She's also a giant Harry Potter fan, so there's that. So, grain of salt. But yeah, so that is our take on Plankton Rising by the Op, coming out later this month. We are in the month of October if you're watching video on demand.
Up for pre-order on their website.
Go check it out. What's the website?
It's theop.com. I'm not 100% sure.
It'd be made. It'd be really awesome.
If you could check it on a series of
doesn't work.
On a series of tubes.
It's just the computer.
Oh, it's a display computer.
It's a
Gotcha.
display computer.
But with that, anything else that you want to say?
No, I mean, thank you. Big thank you to the Op for sponsoring this stream and all of this week's streams. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate having had the opportunity to get a first peek at Plankton Rising and being able to share it with you guys at home.
Thank you. And Josh, I just see you got the website pulled up. What is the actual
It's theop.games.
Yep, theop.games. Look at Shadowner doing the legwork for us. Thank you so much.
They had Dragon Ball Z Monopoly.
Ooh.
Or Dragon Ball Monopoly.
All right. So signing off for now for Twist Gaming. I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
You're not Patrick this time? No. Good night, everyone.
Good night.